The other day, right, I pulled up and asked bruh how long he's been in the lifestyle. Bruh told me he was born a pimp. So I thought to myself, are pimps born or is pimps made? Or is that the same thing? Y'all already know. This is some game from the GrassRoots.
Taking the convo to high levels. Comment, like, and subscribe if you're enjoying Durable Minds Radio.
Now, my experience in the lifestyle, every time I came across a gentleman of the lifestyle or a gentleman that's trying to, persuade the lifestyle, and they use that they was born a pimp, I always looked at it like they was trying to be cool, or they was trying to fit in, or, it was a pickup line, something in that nature.
This ain't just my first day. I've been doing this since I was born.
The dude gives zero game or zero knowledge of how he got in the lifestyle, so he might not really be in the lifestyle, so all he has to lean on is saying he was born a pimp.
Family tree. My granddaddy was a pimp. My great-great-great-granddaddy was a pimp.
You could be popping out a female on the lines or popping out a female on the internet. The dude can intercept you trying to talk to the female, and then you ask him like, bro, how long have you been in the lifestyle? This what you doing? And, him not having logical answer back, or all he's going to say is, I was born a pimp. Really, dudes that say that, they really at the lowest level of this lifestyle, where if they telling dudes in the game that's trying to, figure out where P from, and they saying they born a pimp, or even if a female asks, oh, how did you get into this lifestyle, and they telling the female they was born a pimp, they really got no business being in this lifestyle. But you do run into guys that were born in this lifestyle, right? To where their mom was in the lifestyle and their dad was in the lifestyle. So they think that they was born a pimp just because their mom was in the lifestyle and their dad was in the lifestyle.
I was born to a pimp.
Yeah.
I was raised by a pimp.
The deal with that be, for the dude that's parents was in the lifestyle, is that bruh don't got his own experience. Every time I hear one of these gentlemen talking about, oh, my mama was a hoe, my daddy was a pimp, it's like, where's your stories at? They always tell the stories of their upbringing and what they seen and what, their dad was doing.
My daddy was a saint. Your daddy was a pimp.
Or what their mom was doing.
What about our mama?
Nasty hoe.
But they really don't never got no stories for themselves, right? If their mom was doing it correctly and their dad was doing it correctly, then that child should be in position to where he really don't have to jump into the lifestyle. But he can mimic it for sure, especially if his parents was doing it the right way. And if they was doing it the right way, bruh might grew up a little spoiled, or had his things that he wanted as a kid growing up, to where he could start tricking off on his girls. It's an old saying, man, hey, your dad could be a pimp, your mom could be a hoe, and you could be born a trick. It's plenty examples of professional athletes that have kids while they're professional athletes, and their kids don't make it to whatever professional league the parent was in. They could be good in school. They could be good in elementary at the sport, good in high school at the sport, hell, good in college at the sport, but they still don't make it to the league. They still don't make it to where their parents were at. Don't get it twisted. Dude that parents was in the lifestyle, I would respect him more saying he was born a pimp than the dude that's parents ain't in the lifestyle and he just telling everybody he know he was born a pimp. Now, do I think pimps are born or pimps are made? I believe to be born, somebody had to make you. So it's the same thing, right? So I don't believe that a pimp is born or a pimp is made. I believe you learn how to become a pimp. And I'm not saying somebody teaching you how to become a pimp. I'm saying your own experiences is going to teach you how to become a pimp. You know, you have to jump into the lifestyle, and then you have to bump your head. You got to scar your elbow. You got to scar your knee. You got to go through some things to be able to polish up your brain to become that pimp man. There's a lot of people outside looking in, hell, even on the fence of this lifestyle, that thinks what makes a pimp is a female just giving a guy some money. She could go do whatever, you know, sell sex appeal to whoever, come back, bring that man some money, and therefore he's a pimp. But I'm here to tell you, it's much more than getting money from a female that makes these guys pimps out there. First and foremost, I would think the pimp man is a driven man. Mentally, he's driven to be successful in what he thinks is a successful life or a happy life. Something in life that drives him to achieve more in life. I don't know what that something is. Every man is different, but the pimp man is driven by something. This lifestyle being for the young adults. When the pimp man jumps into his lifestyle, 9 times out of 10, he's a younger man trying to figure out life. So them things that he's passionate or driven about could be small, could start out small things like a car or a watch or clothes or whatever the case may be. But the more he stays in the lifestyle, those driven achievements that he's trying to make get bigger and bigger and bigger. It doesn't just stay on materialistic things. And that's another thing for the pimp man. This is key on what makes the pimp man. The pimp man is not going to just settle for sure not materialistic things. He's not going to settle just for that. The pimp man's brain is always running, trying to figure out the next move to become the best move. So number one, have to be driven, have to have something that drives them. I don't give a damn if you're saying you born a pimp. That better be what drives you to become a pimp. Second point that pimps learn through their experience being in this lifestyle is intrigued. You know, when that pimp man is a young man and he jump in his lifestyle, he's very, very intrigued with it. He's very, very curious. He's open-minded. He's excited that he's learning something new within his life. Them new things could be how to become more unique when dealing with a female. It could be how to stand out from most P's out there that he's seeing outside or in strip clubs or by hotels. One thing a pimp man is going to be intrigued with is how he tighten up his characteristics as a man. How he starts developing his new standards and morals when dealing with the female that chooses to deal with him in a lifestyle. He's intrigued about all of that. He's picking up all the knowledge. He's becoming a sponge to this new lifestyle that he's entered. Which brings us to the next point, understanding. So once that pimp man becomes that sponge and he gets an understanding of what he's soaked up, all that game he's soaked up, he has to stay disciplined with applying that game, with applying that knowledge, with staying with the rules. That pimp man, he can't start having it his way and then start dropping the ball with his morals and his standards when he's dealing with these females. That young pimp man got to understand what he signed up for, and not only does he have to understand that, he also has to relay that message to the females or the females that he starts dealing with. And even if that female or the females don't want to deal with him anymore because of his morals and standards, he still has to stand on them. And for some dudes, that's a challenging thing, especially the younger dudes that's jumping in this lifestyle. That's a challenging thing. Do you stand on your morals and standards and think, okay, if I just keep my discipline, my time is going to come? Or do you just compromise because you're tired of waiting for your time to come? And that's the thin line of this lifestyle. That's what makes a lot of P's, and that's what breaks a lot of P's. But for the P's that stay on their discipline, you know, you was born a P, you been yelling, you been telling everybody, hey, I was born a P, man, and you staying on your discipline and all of that, you know, hey, I don't know why you still saying you was born a pimp, maybe because you went through everything. It's still one more thing that I ain't talked about that will make a lot of P's and break a lot of P's, and that's controversy. You know, that's going through something. That's when you up and up and something happens to where you lose it all and now you stuck, you know, in between females. Now you stuck with your pockets hanging out with no money in them. Now you stuck with nowhere to lay your head. What is the P to do then? You know, is P gonna go lay up in some female and start making babies? Is P gonna pick up the dope sack, you know, to get back? Is P gonna, you know, pick up the guns and start robbing for some funds? What is P gonna do? Is P gonna stay driven? Is P gonna stay intrigued? And is P gonna still understand all that game he soaked up, that if he just keeps applying it the correct way, his time will come? You know, he's at the lowest of the lowest, so he can't get no lower. The only way is up. And if P still got that mindset and he's actually taking the steps forward to apply that pressure that needs to be necessary, he's not just thinking about it, he's actually putting his thoughts into act, then yeah, he gonna get back on top. And when he gets back on top, if he was to tell me he was born a pimp, I would have had no questions, man. I'll say, hey man, you was born a pimp. Look at everything you went through and look at you now. You know what I mean? It was only right that you became a pimp, you know? Nah, but back on a serious note, for the dudes that's just out there telling everybody that they was born a pimp and they not taking the lifestyle seriously, them dudes could put they self in harm's way with the police, especially if they trying to have one foot in the game and really not trying to be a sponge to something, but nobody could tell them nothing because everybody they talk to, they telling them that they was born a pimp. You always want to sharpen your tools, and you got to sharpen your tools by, you know, chopping it up with other gentlemen amongst the lifestyle. You know, it's a small community, and the bigger community hates the pimp man. So we really got to look out for each other in this lifestyle. For dude that say his mama was a hoe and his daddy was a pimp and he was born in the lifestyle, tell us more than just that, man. You know, like I always say, I ain't nobody, I'm just somebody. And I could tell you stories, I could tell you things to let you be your own judge if I'm in the lifestyle. And for the dude that say his parents is in the lifestyle, give me some stories other than that one that I could get an understanding that you know, was born a pimp like you say you is. I'm a firm believer, pimps ain't born, pimps ain't made. A man becomes a pimp by being intrigued with the lifestyle, by being driven within being intrigued with that lifestyle, by giving that lifestyle the understanding and soaking up the game to be successful in that lifestyle, and also bouncing back from controversy. But them thoughts is just coming from a nobody who's a somebody, man. And you know, I like to give my game straight from the motherfucking grassroots. I appreciate y'all staying tuned. Man, if y'all can hit the like button, drop a comment, and hit the subscribe. And remember, always stay with a durable mind. I holla.
Have a durable mind.
You can keep the bullshit, I'll take all the money. How that sound? You can keep the bullshit, I'll take all the money. Yeah. You can keep the bullshit, I'll take all the money. I had to make it through.
Illustrating the ism.
Whole lot of tank shit, man. The South, East in here too, man. This shit slap like pimp pants. This shit slap like pimp pants.